वचनी।
दीप प्रज्वलन का कैंडल कहाँ कहाँ है वो? उन्हीं के पास होगा। नित्या मैम, नित्या मैम, नित्या मैम। All students, please be seated. Now we are going to start our session. Please maintain silence in the hall. Please make your mobile phones switched off. The dignitaries, I think, have come. Please maintain silence. All please rise and give a loud applause. A very good morning. Warm welcome to everyone present. Bangalore. A heartfelt welcome to Honorable Director General of Sarla Birla University, Professor Dr. Gopal Pathak Sir, whose constant vision guides our academic journey. We extend our warm regards to Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sarla Birla University, Ranchi, Professor Dr. C. Jagannathan Sir, whose dynamic leadership continues to inspire academic innovation and growth. A gracious welcome to Honorable Registrar of Sarla Birla University, Professor S.B. Dandin Sir, whose meticulous administration and constant support strengthen the foundation of our university. A sincere welcome to all our deans of Sarla Birla University, Ranchi, the pillars of our academic faculties who uphold the spirit of quality education and research. A special welcome to all HODs of Sarla Birla University, Ranchi, whose dedication and teamwork nurture the intellectual environment of the university. A warm welcome to the faculty members of Sarla Birla University, the torch bearers of knowledge and academic excellence. We also extend a hearty welcome to all officials of Sarla Birla University, Ranchi, whose efforts ensure the smooth functioning of every endeavor. An appreciative welcome to staff members of Sarla Birla University, Ranchi, whose dedication ensures the success of every endeavor. A cheerful and enthusiastic welcome to our dear students, Sarla Birla University, Ranchi, the vibrant heartbeat of our university, whose curiosity and participation make this event truly meaningful. After this welcome address, we would like to proceed for Deep Prajwalan. Deep Prajwalan symbolizes the triumph of knowledge over ignorance, and I request our speaker, Dr. Radhakany Padhi Sir, Professor Dr. Gopal Pathak Sir, Professor Dr. C. Jagannathan Sir, Professor S.B. Dandin Sir, Professor Dr. Vijay Kumar Singh Sir, all deans and all HODs to please come forward for the Prajwalan ceremony. Let us all rise and join in respect of our University Kulgeet.
यं वैदिकामन्त्रदृशपुराणा इन्द्रं यमं मातरिश्वानमाहु वेदान्तिनो निर्वचनीयमेकम् यं ब्रह्मशब्देन विनिर्दिशन्ति शैवायमीशं शिव इत्यवोचन् यं वैष्णवा विष्णुरितिस्तुवन्ति बुद्धस्तथार्हन्निति बौद्धजैना सच्छ्रियकालेति च सिक्खसन्ता शास्तेति केचित् प्रकृतिकुमारा स्वामीति मातेति पितेति भक्त्या यं प्रार्थयन्ते जगदीशितारं स एक एव प्रभुरद्वितीयः.
All please be seated. Felicitation is a gesture of human honor and appreciation for one's remarkable contribution and achievements. I now humbly invite our Honorable Director General Sir, Professor Dr. Gopal Pathak Sir, our Honorable VC Sir, Professor Dr. C. Jagannathan Sir, to kindly come forward and felicitate our distinguished speaker, Dr. Radhakany Padhi Sir, as a token of respect and gratitude. Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite our Honorable DG Sir, Professor Dr. Gopal Pathak Sir, to kindly share his words and introduce the significance of B.K. Birla Memorial Series as we gather here for inaugural session of the same. Please, sir.
Very good morning, one and all. Our chief guest of today's program, our speaker, Dr. Radhakany Padhi, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor C. Jagannathan, respected Registrar, Professor S.B. Dandin, all distinguished deans, associate deans, all respected faculty members, and dear students. It is a proud moment for all of us and is my profound privilege to say something about Basant Kumar Birla ji. And today is the first lecture of this series, Basant Kumar Birla Memorial Lecture Series. Many of you may be knowing, new students may not be knowing, and I'm not very sure. But such a legend of this country, the way, if you go through the lifestyle of Basant Kumar Birla ji and Srimati Sarla Devi Birla ji, Basant Kumar Birla ji was born in the year 1921. He lived a long life. He passed away at the age of 98. that is in 2019. Everybody, all of us come to this earth and one day passes away. How he left, what he contributed to the society, to the mankind, that is more important. He was born in a leading business family, Birla family. He was not only afterwards, when he completed his education and all, no doubt he was a great industrialist, but above that, he was a great philanthropist, and he had contributed a lot in the area of education. Bits Pilani, I think all of us must be knowing, he was the person who initiated, and today Bits Pilani is number one amongst the private universities in this country. Afterwards, the persons from Pilani, those who are residing in that area, today also it's very difficult to get admission in Bits Pilani. So local persons, they were worried about what will happen to the future of, because the local boys, the students. Then he gave a thought, and side by side always his wife, Srimati Sarla Devi Birla ji, after whose name our university is also there. BKBIT was also established in the same place, Pilani. So many local students, they got benefit, and even today they are studying in that college of engineering. That is the Institute of Technology. Throughout his life, he was concerned about the humankind. If you come to the admin building, there is a letter written by his father, Sri G.D. Birla ji, the man who was contributed a lot in the freedom struggle of this country. So the legacy started, and he has sent a message to his son. आप उसको जरूर पढ़ेंगे, स्टूडेंट्स जब उस बिल्डिंग में आते हैं तो सिर्फ पैसे के लिए जिंदगी जीने का मतलब नहीं होता है, वो पैसा समाज का पैसा होता है. आपकी ज़रूरत की चीज़ों के बाद वो पैसा समाज को जाना चाहिए. And many more points here, time is limited. So one more thing I would like to share with you. He has written a book, बसंत कुमार बिरला जी, स्वांतः सुखाय, खुद के प्लेजर के लिए, खुद के सुख के लिए हमें क्या करना चाहिए. He used to derive pleasure by doing things for others, helping others, needy persons, genuine persons. So when he was doing his job and all, the first industry, Kesoram, and many more. So in industries, he has contributed a lot, Century Company, and many more companies. Education, in the area of education, I told you about this one. There is a school in Qatar also he had established outside this country. And today also Bits Pilani, they are having an extension center in Dubai and Goa, Hyderabad. Many more schools also he had established. So both husband and wife were very much dedicated for this education sector. All our needy persons, students of this country, they should get proper education. Government, of course, they do it. But Birla Legacy, of course, we have BIT Mesra also, the other group, but they were dedicated to this kind of contribution to the society, education. That is really a requirement and a need for everyone. One person, Solomon, a great writer, a great social worker. This book was written by him when Basant Kumar Birla ji was surviving. One day at a time. This gentleman had heard a lot about Birla ji. He came all the way from America, and he spent some time with him. He spent time with him in Delhi also, in Mumbai also, in Kolkata also, then Calcutta. And he was studying, means life study of someone, and he was a Christian. Here is nothing, no talk about the religion and all. But he said, I was observing in him whatever Christ had told to us. For Christian, naturally, that is Christ is the ultimate for us. God, that is a different kind of thing. Everybody have a faith on some God and all. He said, when I was hearing to him the way he was talking and doing the work, for 24 hours he was monitoring. And he said, Christ was not doing anything different from him, what he is doing. Alive Christ I am observing. And he said, in Bible it's written like, on the mount when Christ used to give his sermons, that is very positive, precious and purity, with all full of purity, and those who believe in Christ. But being a Christian, this gentleman wrote like, what will happen to the destiny of Christ-like non-Christian? Again, I am telling you, he is not talking about Hinduism or Christianity or anything else. Here also we don't have any intention to talk about all those things. But he was comparing a life legend with Christ. What we have heard, that is for them, of course, highly respectful. We also respect everyone. So what would be the destiny of Christ-like non-Christian? Because he had observed all the qualities. And even if you compare with our God, Bhagwan Ram and all, we try to follow him. भगवान राम की जीवनी से सीखा जाता है चरित्र निर्माण क्या होता है, जो सरला देवी बिरला जी ने हमेशा कहा. तो आज we all feel proud and privileged to start this बसंत कुमार बिरला मेमोरियल लेक्चर. आप जरूर बसंत कुमार बिरला जी के बारे में पढ़िए, सबके पास मोबाइल है, आप गूगल करेंगे. वो सब रेयर लोग होते हैं, हमेशा शायद नहीं आते हैं इस धरती पे, और उन्होंने जितना कंट्रीब्यूट किया इस कंट्री को, बहुत कम लोगों ने कंट्रीब्यूट किया, बहुत लोगों ने भी किया, पर जो इनका कंट्रीब्यूशन था, बीइंग अ लीडिंग इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट, ही वाज अ ग्रेट फिलैंथ्रोपिस्ट, ही वाज अ ग्रेट एजुकेशनिस्ट एंड ऑलवेज रेडी टू हेल्प अदर्स. सोशल वर्क में महारत हासिल थी उनकी. So the university, we feel privileged to start this Sir Basant Kumar Birla Memorial Lecture Series, the first lecture, and we are privileged to have Dr. Radhakany Padhi with us, who is going to deliver the first talk that is related to space engineering. His one contribution I am going to tell you, remaining during the introduction, you will, during the landing of Chandrayaan-3, soft landing of Chandrayaan-3, ISRO, of course, Mr. Somnath, he was the chairperson of ISRO, but the team, entire team had worked. Chandrayaan-2, we had failed, the whole country was shocked also. So in Chandrayaan-3 landing, everybody was involved. So the software, while designing the software part, his contribution was also there, because many scientists together with ISRO and Institute of Science Bangalore, they worked together. So his contribution was there, so that's a big achievement, big give hand for the successful launching of Chandrayaan-3. And now many more things he would talk about the space engineering. We all are eager to listen to you. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightening address. Your words have beautifully reflected the vision, values, and inspiration that Basant Kumar Memorial Series embodies for all of us at Sarla Birla University. May God bless us all in starting this visionary endeavor. Now we are moving to the expert talk by Dr. Radhakany Padhi, sir. I would like to introduce a little...
if you talk more, you have to talk that.
Okay, let us give a huge round of applause for his initiative.
All right, all of you can hear me? All of you can hear me? Already there somewhere. All right, thank you very much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to come here. In fact, our introduction to each other was more or less accidental, I'll say that way. In fact, after Chandrayaan-3 mission, he was desperately looking for some ISRO person to come and talk. But then his own friend, Professor K.P.J. Reddy, probably motivated him to invite me, and then rest is history probably. So we actually had a fantastic talk here, about 2-3 hours of session altogether. But then I keep coming after that. I have also become part of university as well. So hopefully we'll continue more and then see more on that. But this particular talk is, I thought I will just spend a day out when I came for IIT Hyderabad, sorry, IIT Dhanbad this time. Okay, then I thought, okay, why not stopping by here, coming so close. So I thought, okay, Dhanbad doesn't have airport, so I got a chance to take it from either Durgapur or Ranchi. Then Ranchi happens to be my favorite already. So I thought, okay, maybe little more road journey, but you can spend a day and talk to each other and things like that. But then I did not anticipate that he will put me on the very prestigious platform, that too with the inaugural responsibility. And when he did that, then I had no choice but to spend 6 more hours to kind of polish my PowerPoint. So you see that. So I have done that. Hopefully all of you will enjoy that. And it is not going to be just a casual talk, because this is a memory of somebody. And then it's such a prestigious talk. We'll not talk about just like a casual chat and things like that. We'll also try to give you some sort of outcome of our research activity. And then where it is leading to, and why everybody should gear up towards that, even though it happens to be mathematically intensive. How many of you like mathematics, by the way? Mathematics, how many people like it? Students? Okay? Only 1, 2, raise your hand so I can count. Mathematics. Mathematics coupled with physics. How many of you like it? Mathematics and physics together. And if you do not do that, then you are not an engineering student, by the way. Engineering is nothing but combination of math and physics, supported by all other things, supported by coding, supported by electronics, supported by other things. But physics and mathematics happens to be the backbone of engineering. So that is why we try to extract all that and see how it is directly relevant actually. I will not talk too much of math here, by the way. Just let me also tell you that too much of math is not the content here. It's just the message content that will try to do something. So let us try to get going. And this is where I come from. I mean, it's a fantastic display, by the way, very sharp and very clear. So, thank you for that. So essentially, talk about 40 plus departments, 4,000 students, 500 professors. Number 1 in India, of course, all of you know about it. But what we are more proud of is the last one, which is like, at least there is one university in the entire country where it is number 1 in the entire world in one parameter. And that parameter happens to be, okay? And that parameter happens to be something, nothing but research impact, that too. It is not about number of students graduating and all that, research impact. And that is defined as the number of citations per faculty. So whatever number of faculties we have and the number of citations per year, take it and then divide by that number. If you do that, then it is number 1 in the entire world. Then take it MIT, Caltech, Oxford, whatever it is. We actually challenge them, and then we hope to hold on to this. Let us see where it leads to, basically. All right, so more information about it, you can find it in our website. Of course, it was started in 1909. We just missed out a few little bit of time compared to University Roorkee. Now, University Roorkee has become IIT Roorkee, so that is the oldest institute in a technical institute, but very close to that is happening there. And then the entire idea of this institute started with none other than Vivekananda, by the way. Vivekananda, you must have worshipped or seen pictures and all that. He is the brainchild behind this institute. Vivekananda, supported by Jayant Tata, and the land given was Mysore King actually. So, a very big pioneers there that point of time, basically that way. And this institute was visited by Mahatma Gandhi several times. So, it has got that legacy, and all prime ministers do visit and things like that way. All right, so let's move on. This is where I come from, and this is where my area of interest you can see. This is theory and applications of control. Essentially, my life revolves around controlling others. Well, others are not really humans. Others are machines and systems, basically. Okay, this is what it is. And so essentially, you can talk about nonlinear control, optimal adaptive control, also thing. And state estimation also becomes a need, because especially when you talk about guiding your vehicle towards an exogenous vehicle. In other words, suppose you are guiding a missile towards a target, then the target is not going to tell you, yeah, here I am, I'm going here, I'm doing this, come and hit me. Not tell you that. So essentially, you have to talk about identifying that also yourself, basically. So that is what you do for state estimation. State estimation is several other things. I mean, it can save your sensors, it can save your money for sensors, it can save your trouble, also thing there. So sensors estimation is a fantastic field to work for life, by the way. And then you talk about applications, where largely aerospace. And every time I tell Professor Pathak I am interested in talking at the biomedical engineering. No, next time we'll talk about aerospace only. Okay. So maybe that next time I'll talk about. We'll actually have a session on biomedical. That's a very fascinating journey. Applying aerospace concept to actually biomedical. Essentially, we've got a talk on something called autopilot inspired artificial pancreas. So that is talk about there in detail, basically. Anyway, so this also, I'm also interested in vibration, temperature control, also things there. And these are essentially boils down to applying many of these things to this kind of problem. So those of you who want to do specialization in control systems and all, your life will never be boring like this. If you feel bored by some problem A, quickly problem B, C, D, E, F are lined up, etc. So you don't have to really stick your life to one problem and then spend your life on that, etc. All right, so this is a nutshell, a single slide summary of what all we have done for over 2 decades in IIC. So I just wanted to capture all that. We got a chance to work on missile systems, a lot of space problems, including writing a book on, this formation flying of satellites. Then you talk about Chandrayaan mission. Then you talk about drones, basically that way. And then talk about, these high performance aircrafts. And then talk about this one, this hypersonic vehicle, air traffic control, several things. And of late we are talking about, this. Okay, there is a mouse pad in my bag. Can you give that? Mouse is not working well. There's a behind sir. There's a mouse pad. Somewhere, give me that front side. Somewhere there. Mouse pad. Give the bag otherwise. Okay. Give the bag. No, it doesn't. Give the bag. Give the bag otherwise. Sorry for that. You can't be able to see something. The mouse is not working well. You have mouse pad there? No, it's not this one. Okay, I'll manage that. I think that will manage. Or maybe that one will work. Yeah, these are all technical problems. Maybe next time we'll have a better pointer itself, which will avoid all sort of things. Okay. Okay, so anyway, so these are all these. And then to summarize all that, we have actually kind of think about what all we have done. Essentially talk about some 6 or 7 different areas altogether. So this is where the life continues to grow. I mean, essentially, right now we have a big problem of laser pointing systems. This is essentially very high precision control action. When you talk about anti-drone applications and all that, your laser pointer has to point something like 20 kilometer away target, and then the target is under moving and maneuvering, and your laser beam has to completely fall on a specific location of the target for a few seconds altogether. Then only the target will burn up. So this is a very challenging problem. Similarly, each of that is actually having its own thing. And then today we are going to talk about something like a space mission sort of thing. And also remember, those of your young faculties or aspiring scientists or whatever, the budding scientists for students, someday you have to get in that. Then this is one of my favorite charts. When you start your research career, essentially you talk about number of publications. You don't really worry so much about other things basically, right? That will all come. But then when you become assistant to associate, now worry about quality of publication, which journal you are publishing. Is it something that you have to just keep on doing forever? Then you talk about after some time, not only that, have your citation count built up, that way. So that but it is not ignoring that. This is plus. Whatever blue color you see is plus basically that way. And then towards the retirement time, okay, you worry about whether you have actually made some impact on the country and society or not. Because all these things will be otherwise coming from library and going to library. So that is not really that way. We really want to see our research impact. Has it been kind of useful in some society or something? So that is what we are now passionate about. Like my research career is about 10, 12 years left out. So I'm into probably this side of the story. So with keeping that in mind, we'll talk about, I've started some startup as well. So these startups are all there. But largely my lab works on this kind of 4 or 5 areas basically. We don't kind of work so many things. But then each of that will have some societal impact. In fact, some product is getting released from this. We have actually given a very big software development for Airport Authority for Air Traffic Management. In fact, I've met Civil Aviation Minister 2-3 times, Airport Authority Chairman and all that. So that level is happening. Hopefully they will give that. And then largely aerospace guidance and control for having different company, and then laser systems as well. But this is not about appraising all that. I will talk about space problems only here, not other things. But then the space contribution, whatever we have done so far, a lot of credit goes to them. Really. So they have been actually part of this journey. And many people have actually worked on the Chandrayaan mission. Some people have worked on Aditya L1. Some people have worked on a variety of other things. But largely our space contribution has revolved around space missions. Basically. So we get tied up with ISRO very, very closely. So we have done some work on formation flying, but formation flying is not a problem for ISRO yet. They talk about radar docking, for which this student has done that work. He is actually a senior scientist in ISRO now, leading this missions for URSC. And similarly, some of them are actually directly scientists of ISRO. Both of them are direct scientists of ISRO. And he has moved on to this some private space company in Hyderabad. He has done a fantastic work in Aditya L1 mission. He is still continuing with me after graduation for part of our startup. And then he has gone to abroad for PhD, and they have gone to private companies, and then they have gone some postdoc, and he has become a scientific engineer. So they are all doing very well in that sense. So let's move on. So before we talk about these so-called specific areas, let's talk a little bit about the space missions of our country. Because even invariably, if we happen to work on that, we have to really work on some of that in general, basically. So what all has happened? Exciting space research of India. Very first thing that we have seen is Chandrayaan 3. That excites everybody, and your Director General already told about it. So that excites everybody, not just one. So in fact, when I came for a talk that time, it was almost like 3-hour session. I still remember, including students asking questions. There's a lot of curiosity, basically. And then you talk about Aditya L1 happened very quick succession. That's also even more challenging, but not really talked about so much. Was essentially this orbit that you see is not a planar orbit. It's actually a 3D orbit, and that too 3D unstable orbit. It's not really stable orbit. Normally, these planar orbits which are going near Earth, they are not only planar, they are stable also. So that reason, controlling them is much easier, basically. But here it is not, and also while you are orbiting and then keep on orbiting in that unstable thing and all that. And remember, the diameter of this, one side diameter of that orbit is actually 1,20,000 kilometers, and one orbit you complete in about 6 months' time. So this is that kind of a thing, actually. Okay, right? So and then not only that, you go up to 15 lakh kilometers, and the object that you are seeing is 150 lakh kilometers away. Sun that to see sun corona, basically, right? So your pointing accuracy should be of the order of microns, basically, like milliradians, microradians, like that, right? While you are on the unstable orbit. So that is actually a very good mission in that sense. Then we have got a lot of people know about it. Humans in the moon. Sorry, humans in the space, the Gaganyaan mission. Now, why it is so important? Okay, so now somebody tells you that okay, you buy a flight ticket is cheap, but my probability of taking you successfully is 1/1000. 1/1000, right? The probability of you getting into the other side, other home, not that home. Okay, when you take this flight, right? The probability of going to that home is actually 1 in 1000. How many of you will fly? How many of you will fly? 1000 flights you take, and you are guaranteed to die by the way. Okay, so not going to happen. So the reliability of that flight vehicle is actually 1 in 11 million. 1 by 11 million. That's the reliability actually. That is why you blindly buy a ticket. Now, when you talk about people going inside that, the reliability factor is much higher, and that is what we are working for, redundancy factors and many other things. Human life support system. People have to realize that biology comes into picture. People have to get refreshed every day at least. They cannot remain confined there. They have to eat food. Maybe their waste management has to be there. There are many things are there which comes into picture basically. Right? That is how it is. And then you talk about NISAR program. It's already done. NASA ISRO space synthetic aperture radar. So that's actually a free data available for anybody to download and do research about. So they have actually done synthetic aperture radar for both India and US. You can actually download that data with some degree of registration and all that. Amazon Web Server is available, AWS. And then you can actually do pioneering research, and especially those in, I see a huge opportunity in BITS Mesra, by the way. They've got a fantastic Earth observation unit basically. So maybe something like that you can also do it here. And then you talk about, well, ExpoSat, so X-ray polarimetry satellites. It's already launched, by the way. Only the Gaganyaan is not gone, but all these things have happened basically. And then you talk about SpaceX, already happened. Space docking experiment. 2 satellites going in orbital speed. Orbital speeds are of the order of 8 to 9 kilometers per second. Kilometer per second. That means if you want to go to, and that in a straight line way, right? If you want to go from here to airport, you will go in a second. 1 second. Okay, right? Okay. So that is the speed. So when you have that speed, and the both are going that speed, and you talk about joining them together. And when you join them together, it has to be soft docking basically. Now soft docking, very slowly it has to dock. Now it cannot dock this way, cannot dock that way. It has to be almost straightforward, right? That way. So that accuracy of position is also very important. Not just the soft docking, but accuracy of the attitude is also important. And then it has to happen in the orbital condition. Orbital condition is not like a road or aircraft or something where you can maintain the altitude and dock. No. The moment you increase the velocity, the orbit also goes up. Right? The orbital position and velocity are tightly linked basically. So when the energy of the orbit goes up, then the velocity change also happens. So there are much more restrictive environment that you are talking about, and that is why you do in a very careful manner basically. And then you talk about eventually, this is actually happening in a very big launch vehicle, because the best launch vehicle that you have for the Gaganyaan is still LMB-3 or launch vehicle Mach 3 and whatever, that one, this largest launch vehicle that we have. GSLV Mark III essentially. And that has 5-ton capacity. Now 5 ton is not sufficient because your large missions has to be bigger and bigger. Then this launch vehicle cannot take bigger and bigger things. And you cannot have multiple missions, multiple things, part by bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. You can take it and then try to join in the space. Then that even becomes see, every mission becomes a SpaceX mission after that. So you want to avoid that as much as possible, actually, right? That way. So every country has gone into higher and higher capacity. Our country has not really cased up with that. But ISRO is seriously thinking about, talking about something like 25-ton payload. Now 5 of them together. Even then it may not be sufficient. That's a different story because the SpaceX is talking about 100-ton basically. But 25-ton is more or less will cater for our country's need, more or less everything actually. So that is why that is there. But then the vehicle will become very, very long. When the vehicle becomes very long, remember it's a kind of inverted pendulum. And then it has got these structural flexibility issues. That the entire thing will not remain, rocket will not remain rocket like this. Rocket will become like this. Okay? And then it become like this. Then it become like this. So this kind of thing, the longer it is, the worse it is. So these kind of structural flexibility modes also has to be managed, and there are many variety of issues there. Number 2, whenever you have such a big vehicle, you cannot use it, use and throw pens. How many people are using? How many people using use and throw pens? No, 5 rupee pen, 10 rupee pen. I might think also like that. But anyway, all of you must be right. 10 rupee pen, throw it, then buy it another one. Now somebody gives you a Parker pen, 5,000 rupees. Will you do that? Well, right. So that way, right? So when it becomes bigger and bigger, your vehicle cost is so high that you don't want to throw it. You have to reuse it, right? What you have to do? Just get it back, refill it, reuse it that way. So that is what has to be there. Otherwise it is useless actually. So that is then this fellow has to be recovered back. He takes it and throws a satellite, recover back. Now remember, when the satellite is getting launched, it is launched like an inverted pendulum. So it is unstable orbit, unstable mode. When it goes towards an orbit, it is more and more stable because orbits are stable. So it goes from unstable mode and goes towards stability region. So you are not so much concerned as long as you cross the atmosphere, go. That's okay, fine. Okay, wherever you go, that was your target anyway. ISRO also talks about that because tolerance of error is kind of not really very punishing there. So error is not, it's not a missile, right? It doesn't have to be pinpointed. So there has to be a little bit error in orbit and the satellite can correct the orbit that way. But having said that, when you come back from the orbit, you start from stability and then go unstable, and then in the unstable region you have to wait, you have to land. So that becomes a much more difficult problem. And if you do not land perfectly vertical, you touch it and sleep after that. They topples basically. When it topples also, missions are gone. That is why it is very difficult problem basically. So, but having said that, ISRO started that as well. We talk about something called ADMIRE mission, Advanced Mission Recovery. I got very nice acronyms by the way. Somebody talks about that, right? Okay, the ADMIRE part of it is getting done basically. Anyway, so this is what it is, and then we all know about Chandrayaan 3, so let's move on. This is most of the things are done, other than this NGLV and on a little bit of Gaganyaan, right? Other things are done. Now the question is, what is next? So the next is also thought about. Right? There's national mission is also there, and the missions are first of all Chandrayaan 4, and Chandrayaan 4 is a very serious work going on. I'm not part of it yet, but overall I know that they will go to moon. And not a rover will move around. They will just take a robotic arm. Arm will come out, dig some soil, put it on the roof. There is a head in the collection cabin sort of thing. That arm will go dig out a little bit and then take the soil, put it there. And this little bit portion, there is another rocket will be there inside the lander. This rocket will come out with the sample, and then there is an orbiting satellite that will dock on that, and the entire fellow will come back to Earth, and then ready for your science people to do the experiment basically. So that's called sample return mission. And then there is Chandrayaan 5 also ready. That is actually ready quite a bit before time. The thought process. Essentially now looking at Chandrayaan 3 success, Japan tells, you are good at landing, we are good at robots. So why don't we combine together, right? So Japan will give the robot, and then India will do the rocket part of it. Okay, so this is a very nice combination of both sides of the story. That's called JAXA mission. Then we talk about India is also a part of your Artemis mission. The repeated going to moon and all that. In fact, we ourselves have got a call from some private company in US, which we actually jointly proposed something for doing for Artemis mission already basically. So this is repeatedly going to moon, come back, going to moon, come back like that. There are a lot of things that you can do in moon, which you probably don't realize. So it is an intermediate station. You can go here to moon and moon to somewhere else. You can go and then figure it out, some spacious minerals and all, sample return, you can get it back. You can actually make a habitat in moon because now moon has water. So from water you can generate oxygen and stay there. Okay, so all these things are possible. So there are repeated missions for moon actually. That way. Then you talk about Mars landing mission, right? Mars orbiter is, remember, orbiter missions are relatively easy. Relatively easy, not easy, relatively easy. But because landing missions, you have a chance of collision, you have a chance of mission gone. But orbiter, remember, any orbit is a stable orbit. You go to Mars and move around. That move around part is stable. Okay, and they are sufficiently high. So you are not even talking about aerodynamic effect. You are still talking about beyond the aerodynamics, right? You are moving in the orbit. So that happens to be relatively much easier problem compared to Mars landing part of it. But now that Chandrayaan landing has happened, then Mars landing is the next subsequent very natural thought process, basically. But remember, when you talk about atmospheric landing, it is very different from atmosphere-less landing. What Chandrayaan 3 is moon. Moon is no atmosphere. So when no atmosphere is there, the entire braking has to be done by the thrust only. But when atmosphere is there, then what do you want to do? You want to take free rides, joy rides. So essentially, you want to brake it as much as possible with aerodynamic drag. So essentially, use the aerodynamics to your advantage, and only towards the end you support it by thrust, and then it takes. So that's the. So you have to have some re-entry phase, which is Chandrayaan doesn't have a re-entry segment, right? Chandrayaan, because there is no atmosphere, no re-entry conditions. Now re-entry you have to sustain in the Mars. It's not called re-entry, by the way, because Mars you have not taken off from Mars and going back. You are taken off from Earth and going there. So it's called Mars entry problem. It's not Mars re-entry. But when you have to enter Mars, and then significant portion you have to go through parachute. And then parachute is a not control phase. So it will go somewhere here and there. Then after it is reduced certain thing, then you talk about thrust support and all that. Some of that I may actually include some of that. And then you talk about mission to Venus. That also is a sponsored, kind of approved project. So they talk about, okay, all the people have gone to Mars side. Now what about Venus side? Okay, right? Remember those things they talk about Mars and Venus are completely opposite. They call men are from Mars, women, something like they call, right? Some books are there. And they talk about completely opposite nature, basically. So otherwise, you will be surprised to know that Venus atmosphere is really different from Mars. Mars is very light atmosphere, 1% of Earth. Okay, that 1 by 100 densities of Earth. But you know, when you go to Venus, it is other way around. It is 100 times more. So you can never land. It's so thick actually. And the atmosphere is also poisonous. Sulfuric acids and all that are there. So you don't want to go there and then hang out for a long time. So you simply take balloons, and from balloon you hang around and observe the Mars, or observe the Venus. So that is also there. Then you talk about SpaceX 2. Okay? Because what they have done in SpaceX 1 right now is the easier part of docking. Easier part happens in circular orbit. So there are orbital conditions again. But now a circular orbit means you have to circularize the orbit, because orbits are naturally elliptic, right? You go in elliptic orbit, circularize it, dock it, and then go forward. So that is unnecessary wastage of propulsion, unnecessary wastage of time and all that. So can you really talk about docking in the elliptic orbit, natural orbit? So that is your SpaceX 2 mission, that is also there. And then you talk about Indian Space Station. Everybody knows about it, right? Bharatiya Antariksha Station, Indian Space Station. Essentially, there's a space station. Gaganyaan is going to take people, leave it there for some time, and then they do experiment and come back actually. So that is all there. And then next, we talked about this NGLV, right? Next Generation Launch Vehicle with the 25 to 30 ton payload. And then you remember, this is not only 25 to 30 ton payload, it has got 90 meter altitude, okay, 90 meter height, the building. So each of the floor that you take is about 5 meters actually. So 5 by 8, 18 floor building actually. So 18, 24 building, that's the top. Okay, all right. So this is what you're talking about. Okay. And then remember, all these things will get you involved, basically, right? Suppose you want to carry forward in India's space mission point of view, sitting inside ISRO, then these are the things already approved by you. And this is what is going to develop in a country sense. But this is not everything, by the way. So talk about, well, we have got next generation launch vehicle, because these are all Gaganyaan, all sort of heavier vehicles. There is also smaller vehicle, by the way. There is also SSLV, right? Smaller satellite launch vehicle. For how many of you like? It is literally possible from coming to your home to your university in a truck or bus, right? Yes or no? Those of your front seat people. From your home to university, you can literally come in a truck or bus. Do you do that? The question is a waste of thing. Even car is a waste of thing. They go carpooling. So we talk single-seater cars are available. Now Japan, you go single-seater cars. That is the vehicle if you really want to come single-seater. In fact, the vehicles are designed in such a way that even whichever vehicle, if you actually operate on maximum seats, whatever seats are there, and then that is where the vehicle operates most efficiently, economically. If any empty seat is there, then it is an inefficient vehicle. And that is exactly why Airbus 380 closed down, by the way. Airbus 380 was such a beautiful thing. So many seats are there, and double decker, right? Double decker aircraft. So many seats are there, and most of the time they are flying half empty. Half empty means what? The structure is flying, and the airline is paying for the structures to fly. Nobody is paying you, right, that way. So that is why, even though it's a fantastic vehicle, economically it is a disaster actually. So that is what you talk about, many things. So this is what it is, smaller the vehicle. Even though the vehicle is smaller, still it is not sufficient. That means still there is scope for improvement, by the way. So then you talk about Gaganyaan series, they are finally leading to this Indian space station. Then you got Chandrayaan series talking about deep space mission, docking thing, going to Mars, going beyond that, all sort of things basically, right, that way. So these are all the things in this vision 2047, 100 years of independence. But this is not everything. You talk about international collaboration, right? International Space Station, NISAR program, Chandrayaan 5, Artemis, all sort of things are there. Collaboration with Japan, collaboration with US. And then you talk about private and public sector. You can talk about big companies, by the way, HL, BL, Tata, Adani, they are all aerospace wings, basically. Okay? Then you talk about, well, this is not everything. Very lot of startups are there. And in fact, if you go something called InSpace, it's another organization of Department of Space, there are got 400 startups already. 400 startups working on space problems already, basically, including one of that is ours, by the way. That is how it is. So that is what it is. But then you talk about, well, very exciting time for space R&D. So if you really talk about utilizing your expertise for space and all that, you don't get, oh, I'll not get a job and all that. No, no. You get a lot of opportunities, by the way. Okay, that way. A lot of good deep tech opportunities. It's not just something casual, basically. Now, okay, now let's talk a little bit about different things after this. So this is overall picture. Now, as he rightly told, there was a lot of issues in Chandrayaan 2, and Chandrayaan 3 had several improvements, and because of that, it was actually successful. Now, so let me take you that one slide summary. There is a lot of improvement happened from Chandrayaan 2 to Chandrayaan 3. There was something like engine improvements, and then the guidance order was increased, the control capacity was increased, and the function was something like function correctly implemented. There were some software error problems. So landing site was increased. There are many things that you talk about. Okay? And in fact, the highlighted one is the one, probably I'll take some credit rather, because that is the one that was pointed by me repeatedly. And this was actually corrected as well in Chandrayaan 3. And this is where eventually whatever we did and whatever ISRO did actually happened to be together, basically. Because synchronization things are there. So this is essentially looking for, this is something that can be attributed to our lab, not only pointing it out, but proposing a solution for that as well. All right, so looking at that, I think we have all probably heard about it or whatever. But he actually, before the Chandrayaan's landing, Chandrayaan landing was what, 23rd August. Then he actually gave a talk on 29th July, just before that, when the vehicle was actually going towards the moon, on the way to moon. So that is where he gave, and that is where he talked for the first time what all improvements ISRO has done. This then chairman of ISRO, basically, right? Most of you must have been knowing this picture anyway. So this is so that he talked about in a very 1 hour talk, and all of you, I'll encourage you to see all that. And in the part of this talk, he has also talked about a little bit about our contribution. Listen to it. Sound is there? There? All right, so listen to that. Where is sound? Sound is not there. Sound is not there. Your system sound has to be on. Okay, fine. Otherwise, that's all right. You can see. Oh. Okay, time to wake up maybe. All right, fair enough. If you don't know, then it's what to do it. But there are other videos, not just this one. So I thought the sound is better probably. You see the laptop sound also set to properly or not? Actually, see that. Actually. It has to be some microphone or something, right? The laptop sound. Well, I told you there is a sound thing, right? While giving the laptop also, I told you basically. But that's why. There are several videos, not just one actually. That is, the sound will make it interesting. Otherwise, it's a talk only basically. All right. Anybody has any quick questions? Any question, comments, or whatever? You can take a little bit interactive basically probably. You can talk about any question, concern, whatever. Give the mic, you can talk about something.
Major changes have been made in this guidance scheme today to handle various issues that we encountered. One of them is the continuity of the engine thrust profiles and also the
Project it on the, all right, I am back in action anyway. Okay, fine. So let's do that. Okay, wait. Let me get ready with my mouse also. No? This has to work. Where is it? Now again, something problem. Go to mic.
Hello.
Headphone is selected.
developed it and major changes have been made in this guidance scheme today to handle various issues that we encountered. One of them is the continuity.
Can you leave it there? Just leave it. Let me control here. Just leave it there. Okay, don't do anything. Just leave it there. Where is this? This mouse has to see that. No? Mouse is not getting sense. Can you take this and put it properly? Now it's coming. Now it's coming. Okay, fine. All right, sorry for this. Little bit delay. So this is what I talked about, right? So there are so was actually this thrust attitude continuity issue. Basically, essentially when the stages change, no, the vehicle attitude should not be jumping like this. It should not dance like that, right? That is exactly one of the reasons why Chandrayaan 2 was a failure. So that is when you, how many of you seen the TV picture, by the way, TV video? The Chandrayaan 3 landing TV on the evening, right? 23rd August. How many of you seen that? Okay. Have you ever seen any discontinuity sort of thing? It was so smooth, right? Essentially, very, very smoothly it came and nicely landed. So this is one of the things that attributed to attitude continuity, by the way. So this is what he is talking about. Let us listen to him a little bit.
Now, in the guidance and control, of course, there has been a lot of contribution from Indian Institute of Science. Professor Padhi is here. We had extensive work with him and the students, his students who are there in ISRO. And they were the people who actually worked on this guidance scheme, developed it. And major changes have been made in this guidance scheme today to handle various issues that we encountered. One of them is the continuity of the engine thrust profiles. And also the regulation scheme which you mentioned, the perturbation I mentioned already, and also to look at the other multiple mission paths in case of anomaly, the safety that has been built in.
Okay, so this is all that continues. You can see that in the YouTube video probably. Let's move on that. Okay, now all these things, our contribution, whatever we have done, we actually did not publish before the mission success. In fact, there were some issues there. Even the paper was accepted. We withdrew the paper. Okay, the authors have the right to withdraw. And then we told, okay, we'll correct the mistake and then put it after the mission success. All that happened. After that we published. And this is actually a 60-page paper. 60-page paper where everything details are there. Those if you are interested, you can see all that. And this is all documented here. Our part of the work basically. Now let's move on. I mean, this is not something that we'll talk about, but essentially it's a linear optimal control problem with analytic solution. Essentially it's a closed form solution that you can implement easily. But that is not what the future missions are. Future missions are certainly not going to be like this. That's the motivation for that. Chandrayaan 3 happened doesn't mean Chandrayaan 3 is going to be the lifeline for every other mission. That guidance is really not a good guidance in my view, because there are issues that are there which I'm going to talk about next basically. Okay, so this is what you're talking about. The advantage that we did okay, forget about who did what and all that. From Chandrayaan 2 to Chandrayaan 3, there are several improvements. And all these cross marks that you had in Chandrayaan 2, now it has improved. But these two could have been also tick marked, provided there is this sensor and actuator limitations were not there. The Chandrayaan 3 lander had sensor problem, it has also got actuator problem. By the way, if you talk to each other, then that's a distraction, by the way. Front seat people, I mean, you have a responsibility of keeping that in order. If you talk to each other, then go out and talk. No, why sitting here on seat? Okay, so, okay. Anyway, this is what it is, right? So essentially this. Okay, now we talk about why these things are happening. These improvements were actually attributed to something like, these two, basically. Why these two were there, these two are not there, and things like that is all summarized there. So essentially, the actual mission from Chandrayaan 2 to Chandrayaan 3 actually can be, so this attitude continuity issue was rigorously accepted eventually, and that is done, and then larger capturability region also was done. But these two could have been also done, whichever you see that is largely because of sensor actuator limitation. And we are proposing that future missions should not have it, and then probably you get a little more powerful actuator and a little more good sensor, we can do that way basically. Anyway, so that is now okay. Now that actually tells you all these are guidance issues, right? Now what is guidance? This is a tutorial part now. Now essentially what do you call our guidance basically, right? So let's talk about a simple problem, and the simple is relatively simple again. So we talk about an aircraft, right? Aircraft there is a pilot. Pilot has several instruments in front of him. He is also talking to ATC. ATC is also guiding him, right? Air traffic controller. And then you talk about aircrafts. Each of the aircraft has several sensors, right? Orientation, velocity, altitude, all sort of things. And this fellow also knows about flight dynamics. Like which aircraft has which kind of dynamics, like what is the moment of inertia, where is it located, what is CG, all sort of things information known, right? And then it takes all the information and also takes information about actuators. That means what is the control limitation? Like, can I deflect anything that I want? What is my rate limit? What is my magnitude limit? What is my thruster limit? All these informations are coded in. So all these things are going to flight computer, and the flight computer eventually computes everything and then gives the command to the aircraft, right? That's what it happens. That's what it's called fly-by-wire system. Now pilots do not manually fly them anymore, right? They just have to set the knob, a little bit twisting, turning, all that. Now what is guidance in all that? Now imagine something. How many of you like to buy a ticket? Very damn cheap, probably free, but pilot is not there. Anybody? Pilotless aircraft. Can you buy a ticket free? By the way, they may give as a test cases. They may give you money also. You right? You go from here to Bangalore. Ticket is free, and when you reach the airport, somebody is waiting for receiving you with some money because you agreed for that. How many of you want to buy that? No pilot. Well, if you are so confident about it, then you can do it. If you are not confident about it, then only don't do it, right? So life is involved. That's what I'm talking about. But suppose life is not there. You want to send a parcel like that. I'll change you that. Change the problem, right? You want to send a parcel. If your parcel reaches safe, then you get some money. How many of you like to buy a ticket? See? That's the difference actually, right? And that is exactly what is done. Parcel is nothing but a warhead, and that warhead is transported in missiles, by the way. Okay, when it reaches the destination fellow gets the fantastic reward, by the way. right? That is accurate destruction of the target, right? That's what I talk about. So that is exactly what you talk about. Aircraft pilot is not there, but that is now replaced with mathematics logic. So whatever data you're coming, right? All this data that is getting generated, all this information you have. Now whatever pilot is thinking, your mathematics has to think like that. Okay, that is the power of math. Yeah, so that you actually, whether aircrafts are there, yes, aircrafts are also there. What are the aircraft? Drones. Pilotless drones, right? Beyond visual drones, basically. So they are all that way only, right? But you don't carry humans there because of whatever reason. But you don't mind sending a parcel there. You may not mind sending your dog also there, by the way. Dog is also a little bit closer to you, but you may not mind that. Okay, but when it comes to your son, daughter, yeah, you certainly mind. No, you yourself will not fly, right? That because there is other things involved there. Okay, but certainly this is what is guidance logic, right? The guidance logic is very intelligent piece of software which actually relies with all the data and it manipulates everything for your mission success. And the bottom line there is mathematics, by the way. And that is where you can use AI also, by the way. AI can come very handy there. Basically, I talk about the improvement of logic. But do not think that AI is a substitute to that. I am a strong disbeliever of that. AI cannot do everything that you want other than understanding the core part of it, basically. So there is general consensus for that. It's not that AI is a substitute for what it is. AI can be a supplement to what we do. So whatever we do, it can come and supplement actually. Right? That is the mode we want to operate, basically. Anyway, so now the question is, okay, if this is the guidance, then what are guidance logics available, basically, right? So this you can talk about one slide summary again. This is a talk about, okay, there is essentially this guidance was actually used for Chandrayaan 2 as well. So you define something called time available, how much time is available. That means my final time minus current time sort of thing. And then you talk about some system dynamics like that. Essentially, rate of change of position is velocity, rate of change of velocity is acceleration. That's all actually, fundamental physics. Okay? And because there is a chain rule of derivative, you take minus signs here. And then essentially what is your objective? Your objective is currently, right now, the velocity, see the position of the vehicle is like this, and velocity of the vehicle is this one. But after some time, when the mission is getting over, you want the vehicle to be at some certain position, your final position, and the final velocity. Final velocity depends whether it's soft landing, hard landing, high impact velocity, whatever it is, right? But the information is, you have this information coming from your sensor, your current position and velocity, and as a mission objective, we want to achieve that, final position and final velocity. The time available to you is this much. All right, the problem game. Now what you can do is, somebody thought about, yeah, I can do it very easily. But what is easily? You talk about, well, I can just talk about see, what is my guidance command, by the way? Guidance command happens to be acceleration. If I generate my acceleration, then I can generate my velocity vector, right? V dot, essentially rate of change of velocity acceleration. That acceleration is what I want to generate. That's the guidance logic. Now we talk about, yeah, I can, something like that I start with linear polynomial, and then talk about integrate one time, I get velocity, you get a minus sign because of this time to go part of it, you get a minus sign there, and then you integrate one more time, you get a position. Yes? I start with acceleration, is a linear function in the form of time to go basically, right? So what is unknown to me? Unknown to me is C1, C0. If the C0 is C1 known to me, then I am done with it. Now to know that, I integrate one time, I'll get this one, I get that one, but I also get two more integration constants by the way. So these two more constants, and initially two, that means these guys are actually unknown constants, right? They are all unknown. Now to knowing that, you have all the boundary conditions available, right? You substitute all that in there, and then try to solve the coefficient, that's all. So when you do all that, then you get this thing, your guidance law is done. It is as simple as that, basically. This is actually used in space missions repeatedly. It's called Apollo guidance, Apollo people have used and all that way. Now the question is, there are many issues. The fine thing is, I mean, we'll not talk too much about it. Now somebody tell, no, I also want this final acceleration has to be there. It is only velocity not sufficient because my lander has to be vertical, right? For attitude constraint and all, you can figure it out. That is how it is. If your final acceleration vector is 0, 0 minus g, then you are actually vertical, right? 0, 0 minus g. Because thrust is acting that direction. Thrusters are rigidly fixed, right? So when thrust is acting that direction, then the acceleration that is vehicle is getting is 0, 0 minus g. So if I really talk about 0, 0 minus g acceleration there, my vehicle is already vertical actually. So that is how it is. So when you put that one, then you talk about how do I do it? Because only, the conditions are 5. So you start with one order higher. You start with something like one order higher. Instead of linear, you start with quadratic. Now then you integrate it. So it's essentially instead of 4 constants, you now get 5 constants actually. Now these 5 constants will give you, now conditions are how many? Conditions are 5, no? Okay, so put that, substitute it back and get the 5 constants basically. So that is how you actually solve it. So these are all these things, that very little things that you can do. It's not really something so special that you can understand basically. So that is, now there are issues for that, why it is there, what is not there, but depending on the certain conditions, you can do all that. Now suppose this initial condition is there, right? This is your final attitude, right? Final acceleration. Suppose you start initial acceleration also. That is the attitude continuity part of it, by the way. You put initial condition, because stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, you have got initial attitude as well. So that one you put it, then you increase the order to one more, you start with cubic actually, don't start with quadratic. So then you talk about that way also done. So that is how you can keep on doing the order increase and all that actually. So in fact, the entire Chandrayaan 3 mission, if you really talk about, it was initially first order in this phase, first phase, now it has increased to second order. Similarly, this phase, it was initially second order, and Chandrayaan 3 actually had third order. Because that is the segment you talk about attitude continuity as well. Okay? So like that you talk about there. Now, okay, this is all that fine. Now we talked about Mars entry. When you do Mars entry, this thing, what is the difference? The difference here is you have got 3 segments, by the way. This is one segment, this is another segment, this is another segment. In fact, it talks about something like entry phase, parachute phase, and forward descent phase. Only this one, the last one, is more or less close to Chandrayaan. The rest of the things are not Chandrayaan basically. So you have to really talk about different things. So this is, then they talk about, well, will this so-called polynomial guidance, that other thing that I talked about is polynomial guidance or Apollo guidance, will it really work? Because yeah, it works. What's the problem? It should work actually. Now the question is not that. So what you do here is, you go here, so you started like this, you kind of reduce your velocity as much as possible. And that is why you take a blunt body by the way. The surface area is very large so that you get maximum drag basically. Now after some time you open up your parachute is even bigger. Because here, why don't you open parachute here? Because if you open there, your parachute will fly away. They will break out. That much force actually. So there are certain deployable conditions. The deployable conditions are there, you open up, then you can throw out this one also, so that you can send some sensors and all that. And then this one more or less free, right? That just goes in a free mode. And then because it is not controlled, it will have several deviations. Now, even though there is deviation, when you come here, sensor is sensing that, you have gone from Earth, gone to parking, gone to Mars, gone to entry, gone to parachute, and then you see that there is a landing site here. Now the question is, should I not land? Answer to that, yeah, I will land. Okay. Now the question is, yeah, I don't want to waste my time. Let it land. Then we'll think. All the time on the Earth I am having, right? All the time on the Mars I can utilize to think afterwards. But then what is your problem? Problem is your desired landing site is not this one. Desired landing site is this one. So the distance between that typically happens to be about 28 kilometers. And this 28 kilometers to cover, you require about 10 years time. 10 years time. Because every day you can move only 100 meters actually. So now can you really do that? Can you afford that? In 10 years the rover should be there, no? If somebody's rover mechanism should operate. So now the question is, well, I don't want to do that. Can I not really, now that I know it here, when I open this guy, can I not really divert this fellow to here? Why should I land here? Right? That is the question that you are asking. When I was above the ground, I could have diverted. The question is, why did I do that? Now there are two reasons for that actually, right? We'll talk about that as well. Okay, so the conventional guidance work, and what is the problem? Problem is somewhere here. Before that, you see. Here's how. Vehicle has to be holded and then it flies over. So this is that rover is become, see, this is the rover that you're talking, very big. Right? This is the mission that is already done, 2020 by the way. I don't know, the mission in charge was also an Indian origin scientist in NASA by the way. He has also given some invited talks here. But anyway, this is the mission that is coming up. Now the question is, if I really want to do this kind of thing and then divert it there, then I have two choices basically. Choices is, if I go back to that, choice is, I could have started the diversion somewhere here, right? I can start the diversion and then I can do a slow diversion and go there land. That's possible. But then the altitude for that is much higher. That means you are not taking the advantage of parachute. That means your fuel requirement is more. Parachute braking is not there, right? That is one. Number two is, if I wait until that and then do it, then I've got a strong diversion requirement. It's not a smooth diversion. It's a very strong diversion actually. So that one, if I really do in a conventional way, again I have to spend a lot of fuel. There's a fuel optimality is gone actually, right? That is actually a penalty for that. All right, so we'll move that. This is what you are talking, right? 10 years will take for 28 kilometers. Then NASA has realized that pinpoint landing is a must. You don't land wherever you can, but you have gone with a target. And then, why that target is so important by the way? Well, landing site is also there are some 5-6 conditions for that. So the target is very important because that is where you suspect life. There looks like a river. Looks like a little water there, and all this remote sensing will do, no, from the orbiter. Oh, that is where I want to land. Now you cannot land just like that wherever you want. That's what I talk about. Right? So pinpoint landing is a must. The radius of error should be within a kilometer or even lesser, within few hundred meters basically. Can you really do that? Now if you can, yeah, we can do that. Some scientifically interesting landmarks, and that's what you do that. Now if you really talk about landing accuracy, initially it was okay to have this much accuracy. 100, 200 kilometers was okay. Now it is reduced to 10 kilometers, guided entry. Only entry, by the way, nothing else. Only entry segment is guided, nothing else. Then you talk precision landing, 3-4 kilometers. Now you talk about pinpoint landing. So all our NASA's missions and space missions are typically going to be pinpoint landing only. It's not a choice. You have to really do it. So you see the difficulty of problem missions basically, right? Whatever was could have been done, not really could have been done. So see, Chandrayaan 3 itself has a problem because the landing area is not too many areas. So you got craters full of craters, right? You cannot go to just like that wherever you want. So there are designated sites where you have to go basically. Okay. Anyway, so now the second question is, what I need to do? I have to do this kind of diversion, right? That's what I have to do. Now the question is, well, can I really do the conventional way, same polynomial way, easier way? Now if you really want to do it, yes, it will work, but it leads to huge increase in fuel consumption, which is actually very precious of all space missions, by the way. Space missions demands that we do every mission with less fuel. The reason being, it's a penalty to launch vehicle otherwise. Okay, you don't want to do all that. That is fuel optimality is a must in everything. And then, of course, you have to also talk about some operational constraints will get violated as well. So if you really talk about some diversion constraints and all that, will also have a problem basically. Now, to keeping that in mind, NASA has done long back, by the way, 20 years back, or more than 20 years back, something called this constant handling and all that taking into account. Okay. There is something called JPL. I don't know how many people know about it. Something called Jet Propulsion Lab. It's actually not a NASA pearl. NASA gives the money, but Caltech actually runs it. It almost runs all independent missions. They are not accountable for NASA, even though they are getting the money from NASA. It is actually not happening in our country anyway. The moment somebody gives you a little bit money, I have given you money. That's the culture basically. But that is not the way that NASA operates that way. It is something with that. This is why it is not taken. Fuel optimal large divert. Okay, the fuel optimal large diversion has to be there, but it has to be done with minimum fuel. So when you do all that, they have actually done this guidance long back. You can see the idea basically. 2004, more than 22 years back. 2004 is the one I joined. It has got hardware demonstration as well. So let us see some of that. But before doing that, we have actually done the simulation ourselves, whether it is right or wrong, literature reporting something, not something, whatever. We did the simulation in our lab ourselves and actually corroborated that. Eventually, it turns out that whatever mission you could have done, something like 733 kg of fuel, you can actually get it done by 52 kg of fuel. But what is the difference? Computer algorithm, nothing else. No sensor difference, nothing. The way you guide the vehicle is coming from optimal control theory. That is the difference. Okay, that is how you do trajectory optimization on board, and hence it is mathematical little more. But having said that, G-fold doesn't talk about computational iterative way. G-fold has some simplicity somewhere, which actually talks about doing it very quick way. So essentially, it's a linear system dynamics. It has got convex optimization. It has got sparse algebra. It has got many things coming together to get you that basically. And what is the outcome of all that? All this, when you cook it so well, so a lot of dishes you cook and slow cooking. It takes a lot of time, energy, all sort of things. But then, what is the enjoyment? When you sit there to eat, that's the enjoyment. That's how it is, right? That we are talking about. So ultimately, outcome is that way. So instead of 733 kg, you can actually get the same diversion done with 52 kg only. That's the motivation there.
This Google Earth visualization is created from the actual trajectory data recorded by Zombie in flight. The trajectory may look simple, but this flight represented an unprecedented achievement in autonomous rocket technology. The half-mile translation across the desert was in fact a spontaneous landing diversion in which the rocket was commanded to abort its initial nearby landing spot during final approach, aggressively change direction, and begin following a new trajectory that was first calculated only 1 second earlier. The G-fold computer calculated this new trajectory mid-air in real time, choosing a new landing site in the distance and optimizing the path through the sky to burn the least amount of fuel possible. Although the engineering teams knew the intended landing diversion before launch, the vehicle's systems received the updated instructions mid-flight with no advance warning. Once commanded to change direction, the system instantly throttled up the engine and aimed the vehicle hard over to meet the new objective. This flight was yet another expansion of Zombie's vehicle flight dynamics, reaching a maximum altitude of 1,200 feet while flying out of plane with the landing pads, then traversing downrange nearly a half-mile over the desert floor at more than 50 miles an hour before gently touching down within 9 inches of its target.
They are the demonstrations basically. Once you do all that, then the confidence is so high basically. That is 2012, remember that. We are still 12 years ahead actually. So they must have done it. And in fact, you know, see this Mars lander happened and the crane went away. That crane went away, they have actually demonstrated this already. Okay? So then the next one has to do the real mission maybe. Okay, now this is not everything. So this is not, essentially I am now talking more and more towards advanced guidance. So this is actually semi-advanced, what you see there. It is not really non-linear optimal control. Non-linear optimal, why non-linear is so important? Because system dynamics are inherently non-linear. You do linearization, approximate it, you do something, but without approximation can you do it? That will result in iterative guidance. You have to really talk about optimization routine in between. And then you have to talk about some sort of a onboard iteration that goes on actually. So that has to be done, basically next one. So that, now the question is, can you really do that? I mean, can you really guarantee convergence, right? And can you really guarantee convergence every time? And that too happens in real time. I mean, within a few milliseconds can it converge? So these are the issues that works out. But before that, there is another semi-real time. They actually did this attitude, well, to tell a story, essentially there is International Space Stations, and all aircraft or spacecrafts have this continuous disturbance acting on them because of various torques, basically, disturbance torques. So they have to correct it based on that disturbance torque has to be corrected back, and that correction is typically done through something called reaction wheels. And the reaction wheels, they typically rotate at 10,000 RPMs and all that, but then it can actually rotate to 20,000. Okay. By the way, cross-talkings again, faculty and student both I see now. If you are not interested, we'll stop. You know, I mean, I lose energy basically. If you talk, even faculties also in the thing. If you talk among each other, then ask a question directly basically. I can take a question, not a problem. Anybody? I can take a question, not an issue. But talking to each other, that means I've got a direct line of sight, no, from here. Right? Okay. Right. And I don't teach normally. All my classes, I never see the blackboard. I always see the student actually. I have direct eye contact, whether you like it or not. Okay. Right? Okay. Anyway, so that is how it is actually. Now talk about what is going on actually. This is actually the RPM I'm talking about, right? 10,000 to 20,000 something it will saturate. After it saturates, it has to come back. Then only again it can rotate. For coming back, you have to really do that something called thruster actuated torque. And thruster actuated torques are something called momentum dumping. That this momentum dumping, if you do, that actually takes away your fuel. And that the fuel you do not want to go. Okay, that's the bottom line. Now the question is, okay, if you really want to do it in an optimal control way, earlier it was done per maneuver. Whenever there is saturation, you desaturate it, and desaturation takes about 320 kg of fuel. It's a very huge vehicle basically, by the way. It's a huge spacecraft. And then you utilize that optimal control theory, you simply drop this, delete these three. 320 kg, which was required to do the maneuver, now you can actually do with 20 kg only. And that 300 kg is fuel saving per maneuver. And then how many maneuvers you do actually, right? That way. So carrying the same amount of fuel, your life of the satellite becomes much longer. Okay? So that is, it has become a global story, and the IEEE Control System magazine has a cover page article telling that, okay, this is a mega story actually. Okay, so that's what they call about zero propellant maneuver. The 20 kg is almost zero basically. That's what I talk. But what are you doing again? You are talking about mathematics. You are talking about optimal control theory. So don't underestimate the power of math. Okay, that's how it is actually. Okay. So then it is solved in real time basically. So we talk about 94% fuel saved actually. That's how it is. And then it's a huge impact that is come out. Okay. All right. Now if you talk about futuristic space missions, by the way, okay, those of you are looking clock, well, my talk was supposed to be starting at 11:30, started 11:50. So give me 20 more minutes, I'll cover it. So another 25 minutes are still there. Don't get impatient. Okay, okay. Okay, so that is the, I will have no problem. If my flight goes away, I'll stay back here, not a problem. But let us complete it. Okay, right, okay. So this is what we're talking about. And then it talks about what is going on here. If you really talk about what is going on here, highlighted, I've highlighted this. This entire thing operates something called computational dynamic optimization. That is exactly called computational guidance. There is called static optimization, there is called dynamic optimization, trajectory optimization on board and all that. Okay? Now talk about futuristic space missions. Now space missions are not going to be as simple as Chandrayaan 3. I'm telling you as simple as Chandrayaan 3. The Chandrayaan 3 is, having done it, before that it was complicated, now it is simple. So every Chandrayaan mission cannot operate on the similar technology basically. So you have to talk about more and more basically that way. So then talk about what are the space missions. First thing that comes about is thrust direction attitude continuity, right? Thrust direction continuity, that attitude constraints. Then comes about pinpoint landing requirement. Then comes about precision station keeping. Then comes about booster recovery. Then comes about, well, you know, this chaser, what is that? You know, docking experiment, docking requirements. Then comes about again pinpoint constraints and talks about heating and structural load constraints. You talk about glide slope constraints. Eventually you land, then you cannot just go anywhere and then come back. No. There is some sort of a cone that you put, and within that you have to do and then land actually that way. So that's a more safe actually that way. So if you see how many things are operating, and all these things if you want to operate, suppose again I take this simple example. You all of us have kitchen knife, right? In the kitchen you have got a kitchen knife cutting vegetable. My question is, can you really take the same kitchen knife and cut the banyan tree outside? Yes or no? How many people tell no? How many people tell no? Same kitchen knife, you have to cut a banyan tree. Yes or no? Put it, no means, okay, put it there. No means left hand, yes means right hand. Everybody has to take a hand that way. So essentially, many people think that it cannot be done. And then the question is, if you think that it cannot be done, you are not an engineer. Engineers can never tell no. Give me more time, I'll do it. That what is the more time? Well, I'll take a month to do it. Right? I'll take a month. I'll take a little bit cut, little bit cut, little bit cut, little bit cut. I'll take a month, but I'll do it. Okay? So that is called large turnaround time. And the large turnaround time is also a problem because your toolbox is smaller. So why it happened like that? Because your only toolbox was kitchen knife. Now suppose somebody tells you, no, kitchen knife is not the choice. I'll give you a big saw. You are relatively happy. Somebody tells, no, I'll not give a big saw. I'll tell a big machine saw. You are the happiest. 2 minutes it will take, 5 minutes it will take. That's all it is, right? So that is so instead of kitchen knife, you have to graduate to saw, hand saw to machine saw. And the machine saw is what you are talking about. The technology has to be machine saw. So that these problems are big banyan trees basically. So it are not Chandrayaan tree anymore. So that's the bottom line. Okay, so I mean Chandrayaan tree has a lot of difficulty. We have done that basically, right? But then we have to move ahead with many things. All right, so traditional closed form guidance is not, cannot handle all that. Optimal control approach is the key. Now what are the challenges? Challenge is terminal constraints, and the constraints are in the form of position, pinpoint landing, velocity, soft landing, acceleration, attitude constraint. Got it? Position, pinpoint landing, velocity constraint, soft landing, and acceleration, attitude constraint. All the three things should be there. Now position and velocity are state variables, and this acceleration is a control variable. Now you have got a control constraint to handle state constraint. Control is the one, what you can do other things, right? But that also is constraint. So how do you do that? So your toolbox has to be much higher basically. Then you talk about minimum control solution. You cannot talk about anything, I take it, right? Minimum fuel is everything. Minimum control is everything. Then you talk about, well, path constraints. You talk about look angle constraint, maximum altitude constraint, things like that. And you talk about, okay, there are many missions which will talk about multiple vehicle missions, just not one vehicle, it is that way. So you talk about, for example, okay, forget about space for a second. Same launch vehicles in a reduced form can be used as a missile. We know that, right? Now, will one missile do the target destruction? Probably not. You talk about multiple missiles going to the same target, same point, same location, same angle. Can you do it? Okay? Multiple missiles will start from somewhere. They'll go to the same target, same time. That's the salvo attack. And then you talk about same position. They have to go not somebody here, somebody no. Everybody has the same position. And same angle. They have to go that way. So you talk about, well, that's the challenge you talk about, right? That's why you talk about that way. So then talk about system autonomy as well. So what is this classical thing? They are not very quite effective anymore. They have done their job. I mean, I'm telling classical control, okay, no disregard to anybody. Classical control are like retired ISRO scientists. No derogation. It's not recorded, so I can talk about. Okay, right? Retired ISRO scientists are hunted out for every startups, by the way, in ISRO, and that is a strategic mistake in my view. If you become they're inherently involved in the startup activity, then the culture do not change. Okay, that culture do not change. You will still talk about this little toolbox of kitchen knife, even though you are talking about a banyan tree cutting. That's the problem. So they can be advisors, okay, but they cannot be regular, engineers basically. So anyways, that is how it is. Okay, talk about many of these. And then finally what happens is computational guidance is the key, and essentially talks about optimal control theory into picture. Now this optimal control theory, those of you who don't know, I don't want to teach about it anyway. It is very powerful, not because it is optimal, but it is very powerful because of boundary conditions and constraint handling. So boundary conditions are pinpoint and throughout the path it will satisfy inequality constraints. And inequality constraints will give you that safety enhancement. It will give you that safety critical operation. It will kind of find out a trajectory. We satisfy the constraints already. So you don't have to waste your time by tuning this thing and all. Tuning exercise is simply not there. Okay, all these advantages will come. On top of that, you will also get optimality. Okay, every constraint satisfied, boundary condition satisfied, everything done. On top of that, you will get optimality. That is the power itself. Okay? And that is exactly why it is done trajectory optimization. In other words, if you really talk about a launch vehicle mission, there is a launch window, there is a time, there is a particular trajectory, that is the way it has to go, and then it has to throw the satellite. That's the whole. So that is exactly done offline. It's not done online, because online your time of computation is not there. So a priori you keep ready, and then tell, oh, March 23rd that vehicle is getting launched. So March 23rd, what is my weather? So depending on that weather, that condition, I will actually do the trajectory. And at the time of launch, same day, 1 hour before, they do a balloon launch, by the way. One balloon will go with instruments and figure it out what is the wind, and that wind biasing they do to minimize the angle of attack that day. So that is actually just the path correction little bit actually. You cannot do entire optimization on board actually. That's what you're talking. So but time has changed. Now time has changed, the entire optimization can be done on board. That's what you're talking about. Okay. And that essentially talks about what is called computational guidance, and this is actually nothing but trajectory optimization done in real time. And then key theory happens to be optimal control. Now again, little bit math here and there. This optimal control is powerful because this is the math that you're talking about. I'm not going to read everything, but the math talks about nonlinear system dynamics. It talks about variety of optimal, constraint handling, variety of cost function, things like that. It's very powerful. Then it's very powerful, then why is it not done? Exactly it is not done because it is computationally difficult. Now why it is computationally difficult? Because you can solve this thing during two different approaches. One is indirect approach, one is direct approach. But no matter whichever direction you go, one is devil, other side is deep sea actually, right? One side is devil, other side is deep sea. So you will be caught anyway. But the question is, no matter what you follow, it actually gives you this all suffer from computational difficulty. Now having said that, this theory is 300 years old, by the way. This all started with Newton, Bernoulli, and then Lagrange, Euler, all that. Okay, but still we are talking about that. Okay. The reason being, okay, can the real time, what is real time optimal control? These computational problems, these optimal control problems, we know that they are computationally very intensive and hence are difficult to solve in real time. That's a fact. But knowing that fact, we are adamant to ask that, okay, I know this fact, but can I still try to do it real time? And that is not me, but people like me all over the world. There are a group of people who talk about that actually that way. So why not talk about that? So can this computational difficulty be solved so that optimal design can be used for real missions physically? The answer turns out to be yes. Okay? The answer turns out to be yes with several things, and out of that, these last 4 or 5 are actually very happening things. That is what is happening basically. Okay, and in fact the last 2 things, what you see that are direct outcome of our lab by the way. And this direct outcome of our lab has gone into real missile implementation in China by the way, already. Okay, that's how it is. Okay, so we are not doing it, we are late. Okay. So I am trying to kind of convince our DRDO friends, ISRO friends everywhere, but let us see whether it is happening or not. Okay, now what is happening there? You got indirect method, there are issues, 2-point boundary value problem. You have got direct method, there are issues, there are solver dependent issues basically. Now the question is, past 2 decades you have got very smart algorithms, and these algorithms are computational guidance. Now this is all that algorithm, but you have to eventually solve in a computer. Now that flight computer we know are very, very less speed, they are not really high speed. Now what is the highest speed that you are having, so that actually you can put this algorithm back into that basically. So that is that, when you talk about that, these are some of the statistics you talk about, right? Essentially you talk about something like 2.9 gigahertz speed is available already. Whatever you see in your desktop computer, equivalent space grade processors are available to be put in rockets by you already. Now can you do that? The missions do not talk about that. The reason being, there is always this doubt of processors being from not our country. So some processors, some electronics, actually somebody might have done some spoofing, all sort of things, right? Some virus, something there. That is the reason that they are not going. But then if our country starts developing processors, which is already happening, then it is coming actually. That way. In fact, ISRO has its own processors, which is very less speed by the way. They're not some 166 megahertz or something, not very high speed. But then we can actually do that. But beyond that, okay, not forget about this part of it. Now all of you are fascinated about AI. And AI talks about which processor? GPU, graphic processing unit. And these are individually they are very less powerful, but you have got millions of processors there. And that is why it becomes powerful. Now, some of these algorithms are matrix intensive, by the way. The entire thing operates on a very large matrix. So, what is image processing in AI? Image processing also matrix. We talk about layers of matrices, right? That's what I talk about. So, essentially, you take the same GPU ideas, implement a GPU, but do the hardcore computing. And that is exactly what China has done, by the way. That is where they talk about the advantage of power basically. Okay, so then that doesn't mean only processor is going to. No, only processor is not going to. Your algorithm has to be powerful also. In fact, it turns out that 70% is from algorithm, 30% is from processor. 70% is still lies on the intelligence basically. That's why I talk about efficient algorithm is 70%, and then the rest of the thing can go about 30% basically. Okay? All right, so then there are issues like that. You could talk about like what is computational guidance, what are the issues, challenges are there. You know there are advantages, but you also need to talk about challenges and then address it explicitly. Then only it becomes that way. And then there are so much advancement there that in 2017 itself, this so-called very highly prestigious journal actually, in our field, this is probably the #1 journal. They actually talk about a very dedicated issue, special issue on computational guidance itself in 2017, about 8 years later. So things are happening. I mean, we are just sleeping, hoping that is not happening. Not really. Things are happening basically. And then has anyone, these are all theory and nice and journals and all sort of things. Has anyone implemented, I told Chinese story, forget about Chinese. Has anybody has implemented the Chinese stories about our algorithm? This is not ours, is not the only algorithm. There are other things there. Now has anybody implemented in this mission, right? So that you talk about, well, let us see. Why not actually, right?
And that landing burn has started.
Both boosters looking to be on track towards their respective landing zones.
Star boosters landing legs are deployed.
And the Falcons have landed.
Several times. Now the question, how many times? 500 times. More than 500 times. Now that is I talking more than 508 times. And out of that, 511 attempts were there. That means only 3 times they failed. Rest of the things successful. Now, if so many things happened, the question is time for doubting is over, time for implementation starts. Right? That's what we talk about. That way. Now the question is what guidance they are using, what logic they are using. Now it turns out they will not tell you. That's trade secret, right? They will not tell you. But they will leak it out somewhere in some. So they actually use something called CVXGen algorithm, convex optimization essentially. Okay? So now the question is, okay, these are all fine, but you are sending parcels here. Can you send people here? Now, can you send people? SpaceX has a very ambitious plan of having colonization of Mars. At least 100 people has to go from Earth to Mars and stay there. I mean, one-way ticket, by the way. You cannot come back. Okay? You have to sign the bond like that. The question is, can you really talk about that? Well, in that context, they have actually tested this vehicle. Now, what is this vehicle? Heaviest vehicle actually, it took 100 tons and all that, they call Starship and things like that. And this is the size of the vehicle. You can see how many people are somewhere where. You can see that these are the people, vehicle and all that, right? You can see that the bottom thing. These are the people. Now see the height of the thing. It is not 25 meters, 100 meters. Basically, that is about that. You can see this is the type of thing. Now have that demonstrated. Yes, you see that. They have demonstrated on that. This is landing, going down.
Coming up on 5 minutes, 45 seconds. We're down below 2 kilometers. We're preparing to light 3 Raptor engines to begin the flip sequence. It'll culminate with landing on the landing pad in Boca Chica.
Talk about, well, can it be simulated? So I collected a simulation result from somebody, collaboration, whatever. You see, this is left side is simulation, right side is the actual vehicle. Right? So exactly happening. So whatever is the simulation, whatever algorithm you can read in the paper, exactly that's what is happening. And that is exactly what is called fuel optimal computational guidance, having this so-called bang control like that, etc. Okay, so that's how it works. And this is not everything. Now question is, okay, whatever you did so far, you actually did what? You did actually ground landing. Now the landing happened to be ground, and you see so much of dust coming out actually, right? So I see not a good idea. Now, if so much of dust comes out and it's inside, a lot of refurbishing time, and you do not want that, then you can switch off the engine little bit height and then let the vehicle fall. When the vehicle falls, you remember it is falling on earth gravity, it's not moon gravity. So any amount of harsh landing is penalizing, number one. Number two is, if you leave your control out, thrust out, he is completely control-less vehicle. There is no control after that. The control of the vehicle is only through thrust. If that is out, your control is out, no, basically. So you can't do much actually about it. Take care of that.
Now doing some 3 Raptor engines.
They've done
We can see those chopsticks now.
And this turns out, okay, it is not the only aerospace. The same logic can be used for industrial robots, biped robots, underwater robots, everything. You can really talk about any autonomous vehicle, you can do all sort of things. Those don't think it is only space actually. And then talk about, okay, if you want to do this, you can also do that. These are all AI supported basically. It is not about AI only, it is AI supported algorithms. Okay, so we can do all that. Now the question again is, what are the learning algorithms they are using? Of course, we know that Apollo and all that use polynomial, that's a way back. What are they using? Of course, they will not tell you, but they will tell you this way. This is the person behind doing that. Right? This is the right hand man of Elon Musk. So he was sitting next to Elon Musk in this mission control room. And then you talk about, by the way, he was actually working in JPL also, both he and his PhD advisor. Both of them were offered in SpaceX. Advisor decided to become a faculty. He went back and joined Washington University as a faculty. Now he is half 6 months in university, 6 months in JPL. But he moved out to SpaceX. But remember, had it continued in NASA, probably NASA would not have allowed him to do it also. Because it is SpaceX, they did that. Right? The famous thing in SpaceX is, if you do not fail, you are not inventing. So you have to account for failure anyway, basically, right? That gives you that liberty, basically. So then to talk about where SpaceX use CVX then. Now the question is, what is CVX then? Now CVX then turns out to be, okay, if you talk about any solving algorithm, you have got parser and solvers, and CVX then, where is CVX then here? Of course somewhere here, right? This is the CVX. So this is what it is. So they are talking about one-based optimization done in real time, basically. And then this is the next one. Next one we talk about our own algorithm. And our algorithm, we have named it as Model Predictive Static Programming. So there are essentially MPSP sort of thing. And this is not very new, by the way. Chandrayaan and all that people are knowing about it. But this algorithm, it started developing in the context of Agni. And that was developed in 2006-07, around that time. 6, 7, 8, 9 basically. So it's a long back. This is parser and solver, now promising things all over the world. These are not exhaustive list, but I can summarize. Okay, he is the guide of that. Last Brockmore guide, PhD guide, he is how it looks like. This is a picture taken from my own cell phone by the way. We had actually met in 2004. So this is actually something that you talk about Z-fold, lossless convexification, successive convexification, all that credit goes to him. Then all that, zero propellant maneuver and all that. What you see that zero propellant maneuver using pseudospectral, that comes to that. And eventually, the other one talks about auto log. Now the question here is, okay, what is this? And I'll skip some of this math part, let's not talk about it. So essentially, there are advantages for other things. Let us go to our own advantage. Let us skip a few slides basically. Okay. So this is the algorithm that we have been proposing for a long time, 2 decades basically. So essentially, it is more or less similar thing, but we have to do this iteration, and this iteration is done in light speed. Essentially, the speed, that's the I can really talk about that. The iterations are done in very, very fast way. And then you talk about what are these? It's actually a hybrid between indirect and direct. It has got meaning of successive convexification. It has got a static Lagrange multiplier for solving a dynamic optimization problem. You can talk about dimensionality reduction. You can talk about recursive computation. There are so many things. And because of all these, the computationally it is faster. It is not about just like that. And then where have we applied? We have applied in several things. But also remember, THRs are it has to converge, and converge to optimal solution only. And then it has to converge in minimum number of iterations. All the problems that we solve, re-entry problem, ballistic missile guidance problem, Chandrayaan landing problem, Mars entry problem, none of that has actually taken more than 9 iterations. I'll tell single digit iterations, that's all. Okay, so eventually you can use that. Sometimes 4 iterations, sometimes 5, sometimes 3, sometimes 5, 6, 7 like that. Aditya L1, everything we've done that way. And this is what we are talking about, and this also got extensions. Initially what we started with a basic one, we actually extended to have several capabilities. In other words, you can actually talk about, this is a basic one. You can now talk about tracking related problems. You can talk about impulsive control action problems. You can talk about uncentered control action problems. That means this is a sensor issue, this is actuator issue. And then you talk about this quasi-spectral MPSP. Then you talk about pseudo-spectral. This is highlighted because this is the one which is gaining all attention by you. This is the one which was implemented in China by you. Okay. So what is the philosophy wise? There are all these things. I'll just keep it. I mean, had the time I actually talk about it. But this is a variety of problems that you have actually solved it with utilizing this algorithm. All right. So then this is all recorded again in another kind of article. Okay, this actually control system magazine article, and those of you are interested, you can actually read it out. Basically, not a problem. All right. So let us probably go to the conclusion after. So one more thing. Okay. So this is what we are talking about pseudo-spectral. Then how do I know that China is actually implemented? They have not told me. I mean, it's a missile problem anyway. So then, because of that, we actually had a occasional kind of informal chit-chat. And that informal chit-chat, okay, those of you want to go can go, please. I mean, there is no problem with it. Let them go. Why are you locking them? Let them go. What's the issue? Let them go. So whoever wants to go. That's okay. We'll stop it. That's okay. That's not a problem. You're uninterested people, why should you sit? I mean, there's no point in doing that. Okay, it's about 5 minutes more. That's all it's not clear. So that's why a lot of things have to be talked, but then we have to conclude somewhere. That is why this is the period. This is the time I came to know. In a dinner meeting, chit-chat meeting, then they will tell you something, and that we take it as face value. But not only that, then now you go back and see their publications. You will see that this is actually nothing but MPSP again, right? This is MPSP, this is also MPSP. That is what they have done. This is a message going everywhere here. And now the summary part is, okay, so let us see whether DRDO, ISRO, they are talking about it, not talking about it, we'll see about that. Now summary is, okay, many problems will demand pinpoint accuracy, constant handling, fuel optimality, all sort of things. Large robustness, mission recovery, cannot be done in kitchen knife, cannot be done in simple algorithm. It has to go to advanced thing basically. And advanced doesn't mean it is difficult. Once you know that what is the outcome, once you know that this is the dish that you want to serve for the guest, you do not mind that extra effort for slow cooking or variety of dishes. That is difficult, but it is worth it. That's how it is. So that you talk about processors and smart algorithms, it's actually already happening to be a global phenomenon. And because ISRO and DRDO are very occupied in their missions time and all that, we thought, okay, we'll take it up exercise in our startup as well. So our startup, we are proposing something that it will augment to all ISRO DRDO missions basically. So that is what you are talking about there. So this is what all these things, whatever you talk, missiles, spacecraft, aircraft, whatever it is that way. So they all require this kind of handling thing basically. Now to talk about this, now we are talking about some sort of embedded system. This is actually an embedded system which is already built in the lab. This embedded system will embed the advanced guidance algorithm, and it will go as some sort of a pylon processor. It is not going to be replacing the other one, but it will simply go and write on that. And that is what is the size? Size is about 250 grams, and size is this one. Very small laptop charger sort of thing, right? This is the one that you get into that flight computer. Next to that you sit, and then take the sensor data, compute it, and pass it to actuator. That's what you're proposing. So this is what you're talking. Now it will go to space missions, it will go to missiles, it will go to drones, it will go to this. So this is what you're talking about. And of course, we have started talking defense problems, civilian problems, combination of that, and also talk about several companies as well. So if you are interested, some of you are interested to join this, do yourself a favor by not disrespecting mathematics. Then get into the controls, and then get yourself trained well, and then your approaches will certainly take place. That is what you're talking about. And then our advisors, and finally, he is also going to come. It's 1 year of retirement, they cannot go anywhere. But after that, hopefully he'll also come. So this is the team that you're talking about. Dr. Menon himself was right-hand man of Dr. Kalam himself. Okay, Dr. Kalam still remembered him until the last day. In ISRO, he was one of that, and another one was Sivdhanu Pillai. Sivdhanu Pillai was the pillar of BrahMos missile. So BrahMos missile and this Dr. Menon, they were together with Dr. Kalam in early stages. So he's still working, and a lot of our work is inspired from his thing. And rest of the things you can see, and of course you know Dr. Prahlad knowledge. He is part of the Akash missile, Operation Sindhu. That he became a hero basically that time. They are all part of it, and of course a very able team. And then we'll continue further basically. This is our current team, but motivated students are welcome to that. Right? But you train yourself well and do not disrespect all this. We really require physics, engineering, mathematics all together. Then only solve the problems. All right, thank you very much.
a very powerful, knowledgeable, impactful session by Dr. Padhi sir. So please give again a huge round of applause. Any questions from student side? Okay. Dr. Padhi entered his presentation with simple like relevance of physics and mathematics. And slowly, the last portion, what he told us what computational guidance algorithms. We never knew how we entered the great zone of knowledge from basic knowledge through his session. That was really wonderful part of him. And I observed that my writing speed was much slower than his speaking speed. And that was really made the session truly, we are truly grilled to our seats and what next, like this kind of thing were coming from each one of us. So thank you, sir. Sir. Thank you. Now we continue with vote of thanks. And of course, on behalf of all present here, I sincerely thank our esteemed speaker, Dr. Radhakany sir, and for sharing valuable insights and inspiring us with his expertise. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to Honorable Director General Professor Dr. Gopal Pathak sir for gracing the occasion and supporting the event. Our sincere thanks to Honorable VC sir, Professor Dr. C. Jagannathan sir, for honoring us with his presence and guiding us with his visionary leadership. We extend our appreciation to Honorable Registrar sir, Professor Dandin sir, for facilitating smooth organization of the event and supporting all arrangements. A big thank you to all the deans of SBU for their guidance, encouragement, and continuous support in fostering academic and extracurricular excellence. We are grateful to HODs for their valuable support, coordination, and encouragement in making this event a success. Heartfelt thanks to all the faculty members for motivating students, attending the series, and contributing to a fruitful learning environment. We appreciate the SBU officials for their efforts in organizing and managing the event efficiently, ensuring everything ran smoothly. Our sincere thanks to all the staff members whose dedication and hard work behind the scenes made this event possible. Finally, we thank our dear students for their enthusiastic participation, attentiveness, and engagement, which made this event truly successful. Now we have come to the end of this journey today. Now I would like to request all of you to rise for National Anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
All please be seated. Let's first all dignitaries leave the hall, then students will leave. They can leave. Okay, all students can leave the hall.